Welcome to Lip Service for Contractors. Here you'll learn what moves the needle in your business. With your hosts, Brigham, the deep thinker, Josh, the $100 million contractor, Zach, the confused millennial, Laura, the foreigner. Lip service. It's not about dictatorship. It's about leadership. It's not about duplication. It's about innovation. It's not about stuff. It's about your people. Strap in and get ready for some lip service.
And we are back with another episode of Lip Service for Contractors. You guys, we've got a phenomenal episode for you today. You know, it is something amazing when you've got a Stephen Dale and an Amanda Powell coming at you. So we decided to do it twice in a row. Why? One very special reason. It is called customer escalation. Now, I know that this never happens in your organization, but when it does, we have what you need to take care of it even before it gets to you. All that and much, much more in 60 seconds.
Power Selling Pros is the customer service coaching company for contractors. Their one-on-one coaching for CSRs helps contractors book at least 85% of their calls and wow more customers. And their group training for technicians helps you create a better buying experience in the home and close more sales. Visit powersellingpros.com to learn more about how you can make more money with their coaching programs.
Chances are you love what you're hearing on Lip Service for Contractors. And if you want to go deeper, have an actionable playbook, or just want to learn from some of the most successful and profitable contractors in the industry, check out Clover Marketing from Josh and Laura. They give away free, amazing information, tools, SOPs, scripts, and processes that help their family business grow to over 140 million. And those same tools have helped other contractors in the industry blow up their business and grow an average of 20% every single year. Check out growwithclover.com/free gifts. They update the free gift section all the time, so make sure you keep coming back. Welcome back. Okay, you guys, customer complaints, they happen. We know they happen. What do we do before they even get to the owner or even the manager? What do we hope happens? What do you guys think?
Let's do this. Number one,
yes, please
frame this conversation. So I know you guys are really experts on, call centers and the phone more than other things, but certainly give information about a lot. I think we should talk about number one, like how to handle them on the phone, because most people really don't. And then we need to talk about the actual systematic empowering of a CSR to a call center manager to a manager. And I used to have this theory. I mean, I still have this theory. Like, customer complaints are going to happen. They can happen once. That's fine. If it happens twice, that's actually fine too, but it should never happen a third time, because now this is a repeat issue, right? I need to solve something before it gets. And the second part of that is, if a customer's complaining, I have a really simple solution that it should never make it to me. And the reason is, if it makes it to me, you know what I'm going to give them? Whatever the hell they want. So you might as well just give it away before then and not waste my time, right? But we got to go through that whole exercise. So I'll open up to Stephen and Amanda, but I want to issue a challenge first. So we're going to play a little bit of a game on this podcast. Right before Brigham hopped on, he said, "Hey, I have to use the restroom." And then we're not letting him use the restroom. So as many times as we could make insinuations to going to the bathroom just to keep it in Brigham's head, the better. So I'll let you just, you can go ahead and go. Yeah.
I was thinking about a waterfall the other day when we were out by the lake, and, I always encourage everyone to drink enough water to really just kind of stay hydrated.
Yeah. The stream of information,
Exactly. And thinking about empowering, P, it starts with P, the P that you got to do, right?
A double P. Continue.
All right. So it's interesting. It really should never have to go to the owner. I think it starts with, when you think about the customer journey and you think when a customer's upset, there's a reason they're upset, right? They're not necessarily upset at you as a CSR. They are upset at a situation. So I first of all say, look, as a CSR, when a customer's calling in, don't take it personally, right? I call it the Q-tip, right? Open your ears, get the Q-tip, quit taking it personally, right? They're upset. It needs to be resolved. When you have an upset customer, the number one thing they want is for you to listen. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. And sometimes as a CSR, we want to go straight as what I call the company attorney. We just want to defend immediately. We won't interrupt that customer and say, no, no, no. My tech always gives a price before we start. No, no, no. We always do this. We did that. And it's really easy. The problem is when you get in and you start to interrupt and then it starts to escalate. Now, all of a sudden, that's a lose-lose, which means chances are someone's sleeping on the couch tonight. I've been there, done that. I got the t-shirt, although I made sure this time my couch is extremely comfortable, right? So it's not so bad. However, I digress. I think, first of all, you need to understand when a customer's complaining, they're reaching out to you, there is a reason why. I am not upset at you. They are upset. Listening, be present, be in the moment, ask great questions. Don't jump too quick to solution. Now, before we go down that path, I will say this, Josh. A lot of the customer service reps we talk to, I will ask them in person, hey, do you feel empowered to make a decision? And they're like, you mean like waive the dispatch fee? I'm like, well, no, when you have an upset customer, do you feel like you can make the decision without escalating it to a manager? And I'm so surprised how many people have a great fear because they've never been set up with a proper, clarifying expectations of what they can do to take care of the customer, right? And so the answer is no, I can't. I'm afraid. And that's not a good place to be from, fear.
I think structurally, and we should go into how to handle, but structurally, it's really important that you're set up properly. Like a CSR should have in your business a dollar amount that they're allowed to discount, give back to a customer that's upset. So we don't have to involve a manager in every single conversation, right? Now, it's going to escalate beyond that CSR a percentage of the time, but it doesn't have to be 100% of the time, right? It's wasting everyone's time. Now, the key to this is for me, a CSR has a certain dollar amount, that call center manager has a certain dollar amount, that manager, to me, whatever it takes kind of situation.
Yeah.
But they can't just give it willy-nilly, right?
Yeah.
They have to relieve the tension of the customer, but they have limits and there has to be an explanation why. Yeah. We're just going to keep talking about it, Brigham. They're going to be dancing.
It's great. Zero defects. You know what?
Part of that is if a CSR is going to give money back, totally fine. They have the right to do that. But I want it to be a little bit of work. I don't want it to be too easy for them. So I require them to fill out a form of exactly what happened and why they gave that off. And I also want to monitor, let's say the dollar amount's $200. They shouldn't have to give $200 every single time. If you're not monitoring and watching it, they will, right? But just that forced physical, doesn't have to be a physical written out, but they're typing up a form and sending it to their manager, which is making it up to the service manager if it's a service issue, right? It gives a few benefits. Number one, no one wants to fill out those forms, right? Number two, it takes a little bit of time and effort, so it's not a comfortable thing. Number three, I know who's giving all these money away, why and when, so it's much clearer. Number four, if I know this issue keeps happening, I know what to train on, right? So there's a bunch of benefits, but you can't just say, hey, you can give $200 off whenever you feel like it without any way of reporting or creating information behind it, because that's a huge missed opportunity.
I love the idea of not only setting up those parameters, but I do like filling out the form. That takes accountability, responsibility, and now it's something that I could definitely manage. Go ahead, Brigham.
I love the discussion we're having about creating freedom for our front line, right? To make decisions and to help and serve our customers. I love that. I love that we're also creating boundaries. I do not want to fail to discuss the type of employees that we're dealing with these days. And let me preface it with this. You guys remember the saying, I don't know, say 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, when the customer is always right. Remember when we used to be proponents of that? And
I was never a proponent of that, Brigham.
Okay. So I get what you're saying, Josh, and maybe you can elaborate on why you've never believed that, and that's going to be great. But what's interesting is I think to a certain extent, that saying has absolutely died. And you know what's taken the place of that? It seems like to a certain extent, the employee is always right. Now, before I get into that, because I do have a point that I'm getting to, Josh, if you want to quickly elaborate on why you never believed in that, maybe you're just ahead of the rest of us, which is such a surprise to me, right? Holy cow. Let's all be shocked together.
No, because it's bullshit. Here's the thing. The customer isn't always right. I know that, you know that, everyone actually physically. Yeah. Sometimes the customers
of course
wrong. They're off base. It's not a real complaint. It's not a real issue. They're being unreasonable. There's unreasonable situations. There's things that are out of control, and there's unreasonable customers. When you say the customer is always right, it puts them in the mindset. And like the theory behind it is solid, but it misses the point. The customer is not always right, but it doesn't matter. That's a better way of interpreting it. Because if you tell team members the customer is always right, you have an instantaneous automatic conflict because we all know that's not true. Some customers are totally wrong.
Yes.
But you still have to make it right.
Yes. Sometimes it's just a matter of listening to them, empathizing with them,
right?
Showing them that you totally understand where they're coming from in a specific situation. And then once they realize, yes, you are listening to me, you do care, and you do want to help me. Once they have those emotional needs taken care of, listening, caring, reassuring, then they're open to your point of view. So yes, I totally agree with you. But here's the point that I'm getting at, Josh. And that is, I don't know, the best way to share this is to tell you about a buddy of mine. A buddy of mine goes into a sporting goods store. He asks where a water polo ball.
You're just waiting in the pool, surrounded by wires, flashing around.
So he goes, exactly that one, that ball. So I am right. He goes into a sporting goods store, asks where it's at. And the employee is great. The employee directs him upstairs to go and find it. So he goes upstairs. And while he's upstairs looking for it, he's been there for about 5 minutes. Another employee says, hey, it looks like you're looking for something. Well, that's awesome. You're being a perceptive employee. That's fantastic. I'm looking for a water polo ball. Fantastic. You'll find that downstairs, actually. So then he goes back downstairs. And the same employee, right? The first employee that told him to go upstairs happened to be there. It looks like you're still looking for some. Yeah, I'm definitely looking for that water polo ball. And of course, the guy upstairs says that it's actually downstairs. And of course, what does that employee say? That employee says, oh, shoot. Yeah, it's definitely upstairs. Now, how long are you going to put up with this as a customer before you say, hey, guys, know where your product is, right? Now, what's crazy about my friend who had this experience, who finally says, hey, know your product. Instead of the employee agreeing with him, she actually goes upstairs and cries to the human resources manager. Human resource manager goes immediately to my friend and says, hey, you made my employee cry. You're not welcome here anymore. Now what?
I mean, there's more to that story, obviously.
The point is we have a generation of employees that have never been more sensitive. So not only are we up against a customer who is always right, we're trying to find and train employees to the point where they're not always right either, right? And they need to recognize that.
That seems really unfair, though, Brigham. Like, you're lumping a whole generation of people. To me, that's not a...
You're right. Let's just say sensitive employees in general. Maybe it's not just Gen Z.
But like...
maybe I'm only bringing them up. Yeah, go ahead.
That exact example, is that an issue of a team member being sensitive or a poorly trained and prepared team member? And let's be clear. I don't know how that conversation went, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't like, you need to know your product. There was probably a little more oomph to that to make someone cry, right? So there's a bigger story to that, right? And I don't know your buddy, but there's more to it.
There's nothing worse as an employee, though, of not knowing what to do, right? If you have that upset customer and you don't know what to do, you're handling call after call and you just got cussed at and yelled at 10 different ways. You are going to be emotional after 10 getting cussed out and you have no idea what to do. And you keep going to the manager and the manager goes, why can't you handle this? Well, you didn't give me the tools to handle it.
Exactly.
And so then it's this cycle. And so I think it's emotional. If you're going to go that route, it's because I've dealt with it 5 days a week, 15 times every day, and no one's given me the tools to be successful in this situation. And so if I'm not given the tools, you get burned out.
That's fair.
And you give up and then you leave.
That's true.
Yes, it's a training issue.
It is a training issue because there is real fear. They're so afraid to make that decision because they haven't been set up with success. Like Josh said, this is what we're going to allow you to do. This is the process. They do need to be taught on how to de-escalate that call as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because you could do that very poorly, very quickly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the point that we're getting to?
Amanda's face like, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now watch it. Yeah.
Oh, I could tell
So-
you stories. They go bad.
So the point that we're getting to is this. You definitely need your employees in order to have a business that is functioning and grows, right? You also need customers in order to grow a business. That means that the human resources manager, if anyone, is the one that either needs to be enlightened or let go.
We're picking on this specific example that none of us really know the right.
So look,
But
the
like
point remains.
if someone screams at your team and upsets them, yeah, I fire that customer too. That's the right
Right.
move.
We certainly need more details for sure. But the point that I'm trying to make is that we're swinging from one pendulum to the other when we used to say customer's always right to the employee's always right. No, let's meet somewhere in the middle. And the way that you meet in the middle is training. That's all I'm getting at.
And I think when you have a bad customer, you got to figure out, is it a difficult customer, or what are they looking to achieve? Or is it someone that's really harmful to your business? I mean,
Correct.
Yeah,
a difficult
if the customer's got
Yeah.
repeated offenses, of course. But a one-time interaction, you definitely want to
Depends how
provide
bad
a little
they
bit more training there.
And by the
Right.
way, we record all phone calls, or most people do, right? So like
right.
you would know pretty quickly, right? And if we're firing a customer, right, everybody should have a do not service list just on the same page.
Yeah.
And you should use it, but it shouldn't be very often. But like, it doesn't take multiple, just like a team member, it depends what their infraction is, right? If they're doing side work, it doesn't take multiple times for me to catch them in side work. They're a thief and they're stealing from
Yeah.
me. They're fired on the spot. They're not using fire safety stuff. They're fired on the spot because they will burn down the house, right? Like it depends on the issue, right? But
We all talk about this upset customer, like there's some random person out there in the world. We have all been the upset customer. Can we just all admit that? Like everyone here and listening has been the upset customer before. I'll speak for myself. I get upset and I will like pump myself up before I get on the call because I'm like, if I show you how upset I am, you will give me what I need. My objective is to try to get you on my side. And so I worry about getting steamrolled because I like to think I'm a nice person. So I'm like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how angry I am, and that will get this solved. As soon as I feel like that customer service person on the other end of the phone, my customer service representative is on my side, it doesn't mean it's this rainbows and butterflies conversation, but now it can be a productive conversation.
right.
And I think it's important to recognize we have all been that upset customer before. What would we want? What were we trying to get out of that? And I would say a majority of the time we want to feel heard and we want someone to feel like we're on their side and you're not the roadblock in my way to get to the manager. If you take ownership, I'll talk to you.
Right. That's key too, right?
Mhm.
Not only the ability to take ownership, right? The willingness to take ownership, but like I would say probably 90 to 95% of customer complaints can be taken care of if they're taken care of by the CSR just by listening.
Yeah.
Just by really hearing their story and being sympathetic and say, yeah, that's not the kind of service we normally deliver. And I apologize for that. And a lot of times that alone is enough to save a customer.
Again, you just don't win in trying to argue, man.
No.
You just listen. Listen and say, and tell me more. And what else? Right?
And this comes from the owner down too. Like we all know owners, and like I've had an embarrassingly large amount of conversations. They're like, "We're getting sued for this," and I just pay them. It's like, no, but they're wrong. We did everything
Doesn't
right.
matter.
Like, yeah, but just pay them. Do you know how expensive and time consuming it will be to fight this? It's cheaper to just pay them. Yeah, they're taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
Put them on your do not service list. Never do business with them again.
That's
It is what it is. I mean, I'm sure if you listen to previous podcasts, you've heard the biggest thing we had, Parker and Sons, where we gave away all the money
Yeah.
for an AC unit that we never installed.
That you never installed. Yeah.
That was fucking painful. But you know what? It would have cost us 10 times that to fight it.
And of course, you're never working with that person again. Of course not.
Oh, for sure not. Not only do we get a do not service, but we, have them sign something that they can't badmouth us. There's a lot of legal paperwork that follows when I'm paying someone an absorbent amount of money for something and they in no way deserve, but I'm still going to pay it. unfortunately.
And thank goodness those are anomalies. They don't happen often, but they will happen.
They do have.
They do happen. But you got to pick the battle. Just because you won the argument, well, guess what? You still lost, because now they're going online to tell everyone in the world how poorly you treated them. So sometimes you just need to suck it up and go, hey, cost of doing business.
Yep. Yeah.
Do not service. We move it on.
So Josh was asking in the beginning, all right, at what point do we go over step by step what we should do with an angry caller before it escalates to the owner, right? Our goal is for the owner to not get that, correct?
Ever.
Yeah, to not get those calls. So if we agree on that, and hopefully we do, sounds like we do, step one is to choose not to be offended, to choose not to react. Okay, so our first step is to press pause in that moment and not let an angry caller make the call handler angry also. Would you guys agree?
It's contagious, kind of like positivity. But yes, contagious.
Yeah, it's good.
You got to reduce that urge. It's like if you have to use the bathroom really badly, you got to move it from your mind, you know?
Like if the inner wall of your bladder was getting really full right now, you could feel it coming out.
Yeah.
But, I digress.
As I take another drink of water, bring it on, guys. Bring it on. All right. So first things first, we are going to press pause in that moment. All right. This takes some emotional intelligence, right? You've got self-awareness going on. You've got social awareness going on. Okay, this person's mad. That doesn't mean that I have to also be mad. Okay, that's step one. Pause in that moment, choosing to listen, to care, and to reassure that we're going to help.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're showing them that we're listening to their situation, that we understand. We're showing them that we care about them. Look, caring is extremely important because we're basically saying that what you're feeling right now, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, it's all right. Okay. You are worthy of whatever it is that you're feeling. All right.
Well, it's giving them that validation, Brigham.
Yes.
Validating the worth. When you show that empathy, it really does validate. And I'm not necessarily saying I agree with what they said. I'm simply validating they do have, a concern. I'm acknowledging that. One of the things I love at CSR when they let them know up front, hey, my name is Steven. Just want to let you know I can take care of you. So talk to me. What's going on? Taking that ownership right up front, like you said, Josh, 99% of the time they can take care of it.
Yeah.
Let me know right up front. Continue on, Brigham.
And I'm going to add one thing real quick, if I can jump in here. That listen principle, it's going to change based on your upset customer. Some people just want to tell you the problem and let's move to the solution. They don't want to talk it all out. They've already said it, so you need to read that. You also have customers where I'll have CSRs hear the problem and they go, oh, I know how to fix this. Let me fix it. And they don't think they're interrupting, but they are, because the customer hasn't gotten to tell how not having the AC working ruined grandma's birthday. And now there's no birthday cake and the whole sob story you're going to get. They need to tell that whole sob story before they're willing to move on. Because in their mind, they're going, but you don't get it yet. So let me tell this again. You haven't heard my whole story. I'm not interested in your solution yet. So your listen, the amount you spend in that will change based on your customer, but it is more than just hearing, oh, you're upset. Let them tell their story.
You can shorten that story by rephrasing as well as restating. Okay. So you don't just say, oh, so yeah, you're really upset. No. Yeah, I'm so upset because of this. Okay. So then you restate the this, and this. You rephrase the this, and this. Now, when I say rephrase, if they say, hey, you guys have been out to my home twice in the last 3 weeks, which never happens, right? But when it does, you say, holy cow. So we've been out to your house twice in the last 3 weeks. That's not good. Now I'm showing them that I'm listening, specific to their situation. That's what I mean by rephrasing.
That rephrasing, that understanding does create that connection that they're looking for. I think acknowledging, by all means, of course. And I love the idea, Amanda, about the listening. Sometimes you're going to have to listen to the story about grandma.
But here's the thing. As they recognize that you understand, as they recognize that you truly care, sincerely, genuinely, as they recognize that you're here to help them, all of a sudden their tone changes. Why? It changes because they recognize that you're actually trying to help them. And they don't want to feel like a jerk to somebody they like.
Or someone that has nothing to do with the problem, which they know that's the case too.
They don't want to be unreasonable. Exactly. See, most people aren't just douchebags. They actually want to be understood, cared about, and reassured.
if you just became my best chance of getting this fixed, I do not want to be on your bad side as a customer. So I'm going to be willing to work with you. One of my favorite phrases to use is thank you for calling to let me know I'm going to take care of this. Right? It's ownership right there. You didn't admit fault. You didn't throw a technician under the bus. It's not excuses, because what feels like an explanation to you comes across as an excuse to the customer.
That's fair.
So earlier on this podcast, I was scolded for lumping an entire generation into you're very sensitive category. Let me tell you why I did that. All right. Because
and I'm in that generation.
so let me tell you my rationale. Okay. My rationale is 75% of your workplace consists of millennials and Gen Zs. Okay. 75, it's going on 85. It's only going to get, I won't say worse. It's only going to get more that way. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, because of the amount of time spent on cell phones, on anything other than face-to-face interaction, okay, there's less face-to-face interaction than there has ever been with COVID, with all these outside reasons, right? They are less social than they've ever been before, right? So Josh is right. It is totally unfair for me to lump an entire generation into that category. But I am saying that they are more susceptible because of their environment, the environment they grew up in, to not be social, to not know what to do in pivotal situations, right? Where somebody is angry or they are upset or they are sad or they are offended. So training them is the right answer. Training them to listen, training them to care.
I don't disagree with you to a point, but like you're falling into a dangerous trap, in my opinion.
Sure. It's just a point that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, it's a dangerous trap. And the reason is, like, number one, that's certainly not true of, in fact, most people in Generation X, but maybe a larger percentage than others because they haven't been in the workforce as long, have a different mentality, right? But like, if you were to talk to every generation over the history of generations, it's like the generation after them is always lazier, right? They always don't understand. They're always different, right?
And that may be true.
The thing is, it's not them, it's you.
It's you.
You have to figure out how to communicate with them differently, but they're not more sensitive. They're not less social. They're just social in a different way. So you have to teach them how you want them to interact with that. But that was the case with every generation, right?
That's fair.
Like, before cell phones, when cell phones came out, I was like, I don't want somebody getting a hold of me all the time. Like, people adjust, and it's just who it is, right? I remember back in the day when I started, people carried beepers, right? I had to carry quarters with them, right? It's all relative. You can make excuses for them and why they're not as good, but it's bullshit. It's just not true. And when but
we're agreeing that it is
out loud say things like that, what you're really doing is you're empowering them to have excuses, and you're removing accountability for an entire generation. And by the way, every generation after, I don't give a shit what you say, is smarter, more efficient, more driven than the generation before.
Also true.
Just in a different way.
Yeah.
Also true. I mean, we're talking about my kids now. Of course, they're smarter than I am.
Yeah. They just have more access to information. That's how it works. Anyway, we're going off a random tangent here. Let's go back to the customer complaint and escalation. And I have opinion in this, but I want to hear your guys's. Some companies like tend to have people who specialize, like, hey, I got 10 CSRs or 50 CSRs or 5, it doesn't matter. And Amy is really good at handling customer complaints. Get a customer's upset, I want you to transfer them to Amy. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I am a big fan of specialized. And if there's someone that is excellent on de-escalating customers, I am very good with that. Again, this is my opinion. They do it really well. They're used to it. They're very empowered. Other CSRs are taking so many inbound. All of a sudden, an upset customer, it throws them off their game for the rest of the day. This person, Amy, that you're talking about, this is what she does. She is a rock star at it. So you know what? Great. Let me get you over to Amy. Amy's going to get you taken care of. You're going to be in great hands. And I transfer it. That's my thought.
Amanda?
I think I'm reversed here on this, because if someone's calling in, getting transferred in that moment, I'm just escalating customer more, and I'm not preparing my team. I also, if we call her Amy, right? If Amy's my specialist, then how she's feeling by the end of the week, if all she's doing is taking upset customer calls. That's going to be you need the right person in there to do that. So I would say you have that specialized person for when the CSR, the initial strategies aren't enough for that upset customer. They need that specialist. Then you transfer. But I would want to empower my CSRs to be able to attempt it and then know my rule of thumb is when I feel myself being defensive, it is time to transfer the call because it's no longer going to be a productive conversation. So that would be the rule of thumb for my CSRs. When you feel yourself getting defensive, it's no longer going to be turning productive. Let's get it over to Amy.
Yeah, I agree
So
with you,
there's
Madeline.
a place for it, but just where.
I didn't even think about like wearing on that person, right? But to me, the first contact that they have has such a big opportunity to immediately reduce their stress level and like diffuse them at least partially, right? If they can't handle it, then you could transfer to Amy 100%. I'm cool with that, right? But like, from a customer journey perspective, and we'll take it outside, we'll stay in AC, but my AC broke, it's a brand new system. If that first person that I talk to doesn't listen and respect me and pay attention and then immediately transfer me to someone else, like that's a terrible customer experience. They should have at least made an attempt to calm me down, right? That's my opinion, but I know companies do it. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on this either, right? Because like some CSRs aren't going to be great at this. I think that's also just like a training issue though.
Yeah.
If
You
they're
can't
well
scale
trained.
if it's just you can't scale if it's just Amy.
Right. But it could be Amy, John, Steve, Rod, I mean, it's all relative, right? But I think I'm on the same page as Amanda. Like I'm okay with Amy being that person, but only after the CSR fails. And by the way, that Amy probably has a larger dollar amount or a higher ability to give things back because she specializes.
She specializes, and maybe Amy spends some times with every CSR to kind of help them through this whole thing. And maybe she's working on the training so that they can all do it. And everyone lives happily ever after, Amanda.
There's my fairy tale ending.
I would say one thing, though, is when you do have an upset customer and for any reason you have to call them back for whatever reason, because I had to go talk to Amy or service manager, whatever the case is. Look, you need to nip that in the bud like quickly, meaning don't take a call at 10 a.m. and say, hey, we'll call you back by the end of business, because from 10 a.m. until you call them back, that's the only thing they're thinking about. And they're telling all of their friends, do not let it fester. Deal with it immediately.
Do you know how many social media posts I've seen where someone said, they haven't contacted me back, and they go, oh, blow up their Twitter, blow up their Facebook page. And it just spreads like wildfire because it wasn't in the time frame they wanted. So that's really good point.
Yeah. And to that same point, the customer complaints could cost you a lot of money. Like part of this conversation needs to always be like, you should really understand how much a bad Google review affects your business, or Yelp, or BB complaint, or just a pissed off customer that doesn't tell anyone except everyone they speak to about your business, right? But you don't even see those, right? Which is the majority of them. There's a huge cost to that, right? And when you have that thought process in mind, like you can't leave them hanging out there. I wouldn't even say, hey, you have to tackle it quick. I think because of the importance of it, you need to tell them when you're going to tackle it, right? Yes, John's running a service meeting right now. I need to get on the phone with him, figure out exactly what's going on. That meeting is an hour. I will call you within an hour and 15 minutes. By 9:45, me and you will be on the phone, right? By the way, if you haven't got a hold of John by 9:45,
you're
calling at 9:45 and telling what's going on.
Always.
That's a general like rule. You should always do that with all customers, not even just complaining.
Yeah.
But it has a stronger urgency and necessity when you know they're already pissed off.
So you own it. You own it and you see it through to close, right? The customer's happy, company's great. You own it, regardless if it's Amy or anybody else in the organization.
Yeah. Yep. As long as it's not me.
As long as it's not the owner. That's what Josh is getting at.
Now, to be clear, like I say that and there's some truth to it. But occasionally complaints will get to me. But when complaints get to me, it's what the hell is going on? Like, why can't you guys handle this? And some customers are unreasonable customers, and that's going to happen. And sometimes I have to get involved. But like, I've been doing Clover for 2 years, and we have thousands of people we talk to every single day. It's probably happened once. Parker and Sons, like, to make it to Paul or Daryl or myself, there's 5 a day, obviously, like 2 a year. And we're in 100, at that time, probably 100,000 homes a year.
So let's summarize. We're going to press pause in the moment. Customer's angry. Pause in the moment. We're not going to react. We're going to respond by showing them that we're listening, showing them that we care, reassuring them that we can help. After that, we're going to say, okay, here's what I'm going to do. This is where we begin to create value, right? We create value by saying we're going to do A, B, C, D to correct the situation. All right. You might even want to say, here's my direct line. If you have any questions, I want you to call me, right? Call me, call my direct line, and I will be there. I will take care of it. I'll let you know where we're at in the process of following the ABCD plan. I will call you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
Why don't you go too far down a rabbit hole?
Okay.
Number one, you don't always have to do something. Sometimes listening is enough, right?
Correct.
Agreed.
In fact,
Agreed.
majority of the time. But number two, are you suggesting that CSR gives a direct line?
It depends. It depends on how big you are. If you're a small company, absolutely.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. No, that's fair. That's true.
Absolutely. Own it. Own it. Pick out a technician with the dispatcher to make sure it's taken care of. And you say to the owner, look, I'm going to call you after the service is provided and make sure that you're content. And if they wanted to do a +1, and I will call you a week later and make sure it's still running. Okay. You said that we've been out to your home twice and it's still not working. I'm not going to let that happen again. All right. So I will call you in a week and make sure it's still working. So that's you doing that +1.
Amanda and Steven are cracking up right now, and I have no idea why.
Because I'm right.
No, that's a big deal. And the value, I think a big thing is sometimes the answer you're giving customer, if it's to that point and listening wasn't enough, the answer you're going to give them might be a little bit different than what they were expecting. So what Brigham's saying, that value component is really important because the customer needs to see why you're choosing that option, how it's in their best interests. Because for you, you're going, hey, this will fix it. And your customer may be going, well, that's a little different than I thought it was going to be. And so you need that explanation with it so they can be on board with it.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And then at the end, make sure you thank them for the opportunity. Thanks so much for yelling at me in the beginning. That was so fun, right? Make sure you're grateful.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not that exact wording, but yes.
Yeah, of course not.
But close. Yes.
You say thank you very much for yelling at me. That's it.
Exactly.
Got it.
Wow.
Well, this is fun, you guys. What a controversial but fun podcast.
I don't know how controversial it was. Was it controversial? I mean, the only thing controversial is we kept you here for 40 minutes where you had to pee.
Oh, he's been dancing this entire time.
He has actually throughout the podcast become like more and more antsy. I can see it.
Yeah.
Like he's just shifting a lot right now. Yeah.
I'm winning. That's all that matters. All right, you guys, share this podcast, like it, subscribe, tell your friends about it. What else do you think, Josh?
Now just follow us, tell all your friends, like it. You know the routine, guys. We're trying to get this in front of many contractors as possible. Raise all boats, contractors, technicians, call center managers, across the board. Not just calls. You get it. Do us a favor. Help us do that. That means a lot to us. We really would appreciate it. And obviously, if you need any help from either Clover or Power Selling Pros, you know how to get a hold of us. And outside of that, I want you to go out and do what, Brigham?
Well, change the world. Change the world. Thanks, David and Amanda. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Josh.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Lip Service for Contractors. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to leave us a review in the App Store and don't forget to share with your friends. Ideas are cheap. Implementation is what separates the winners from the watchers. Go out and implement these ideas. See you on the next episode of Lip Service for Contractors.